Hello, this is Dr. Liechty, and in this video we'll take a look at the calculation of descriptive statistics using Minitab, a dedicated statistics software package, and also using Microsoft Excel. You'll probably get the most out of this if you follow along with the calculations using this software. So before you continue with this video, I recommend that you come over to the Course Documents folder, click on that, and you'll see Minitab Access. And there's a PDF file here. If you click on that, it will tell you there's two options for doing this. The free option and the easy option that should work most of the time is just to use the virtual app through LeBeau College of Business. And if you click on this link here, it will take you to a web page that tells you how to get that. Now your names have been given to the LeBeau Tech people, and you should be able to see Minitab when you log in. So before you log in, you need to come over here and make sure you have the Drexel VPN running, which I already have going right now. So then when you click on the VApp Download Center, you will see Minitab. So if you click on that, you will download the virtual app, and you can save this somewhere so you don't have to download it every single time. But if you click on it here, it will say, do you want to connect? And you say connect. I've already got it connected, so I'm not going to do that. But once you do have it connected, you will see something that looks like this. And you want to open up Unit 1 data.mtw. The extension MTW stands for Minitab Worksheet. And you can find that by coming back over here under Unit 1. And then come into video related files, and you'll see there's the MTW. There's also a text version and an Excel version of the same data. All the data is the same, just for different software packages. If you have any trouble getting Minitab to run, I'm going to refer you to the LeBeau Tech people. They are paid to troubleshoot and do this sort of thing. I, however, on the other hand, am not a IT person, so I won't be able to help you with that. So back over here in Minitab, you see in this lower window what looks like a spreadsheet. If you have the data in such a way that you can open the file by going to File, Open, you can open it that way. There are other ways to get data in. For example, if you have an Excel spreadsheet that's already open, you can just copy and paste data straight from the Excel spreadsheet into the Minitab worksheet, or you can actually just type the data straight in. I don't recommend doing that if you have a large data set. But descriptive statistics are very easy to compute using Minitab, and to do that we're going to go up here to Stat, Basic Statistics, and display descriptive statistics. Now before we actually do this, I will click on it, but let me talk about the data that we have here. We have two variables, hours. This is the number of hours spent per week by undergraduates studying statistics. And then we've got gender, which is a qualitative data variable. And you can see this -t here. That tells you it's a text data, so Minitab knows this is not numeric. And that will make a difference when we come over here and we go to look at our display descriptive statistics. If we want to use descriptive statistics, we need to use quantitative data such as hours. And so if I'm in variables, you'll see hours is the only variable that's available. I can either type that in here to variables, or I can just double click on hours and it shows up here. Now you'll see there are options you can go in and click on. I'm going to skip over that and let you explore that on your own. When we click OK, we will see in the session window the results of our descriptive statistics. And you can see we've got variable hours, N, that's the number of observations, is 25, and star means the number of missing observations. We don't have any missing ones here. The mean, 3.116, standard error of the mean, that's something we'll talk about a little bit later in the course, so don't worry about that for now. Standard deviation, this is the sample standard deviation, 1.046, and then we have a 5-number summary, minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum. So another very useful way to look at data is to break the data down by some other variable. So if we're interested in hours, for example, hours spent studying, we want to know how that differs for females versus males. We can do that simply by going back to Stat, Basic Statistics, Display Descriptive Statistics, and you'll see it's already populated with what I just did. But now what I want to do is I want to add by variables, and so if I put my cursor in by variables box, see now I've got gender showing up. So this means give me the same exact statistics or descriptive statistics that we just looked at, but let's do it by gender. And when we click OK, you'll see what I mean by that. So we have all the same variables, mean, standard error of the mean, standard deviation, min, quartiles, and so forth. But now we have it broken down by gender. So for females, there's 13, males are 12, there's no missing data. The mean for females is 2.846, which is lower than 3.408, which is the mean for the males. Standard deviation for the females is a little bit higher than for the males, and you see the respective 5-number summaries. So it's very useful to be able to break down the data by some other variable, and it turns out we could, if we had more variables, say we had right here some other variable called class, for example, we could say freshman, sophomore, so forth. We could break it down further by class as well. Now we don't have that, so we won't do it right now. But every time you add a variable to a by variable or a group variable, things get more and more complicated, which is fine because we've got computers and fancy algorithms for dealing with stuff like that. The next type of descriptive statistics we want to talk about are graphical ones. And so if you come up here to graph and histogram, pick simple histogram. There's lots of other ones. We're just going to stick with the basics for now. We will see something similar to what we had with the descriptive statistics, the graph variables. Again, only quantitative variables can be used here. So we'll put in hours and we'll say OK. And I'm not quite sure what happens, so we'll try that again. This time when we click hours, we actually get the histogram. If you hover your mouse over one of these bars, it will tell you the value of the bar, and not only that, it will also tell you the bin limits on the bar. And I'll refer you to the Unit 1 notes for discussion on what histograms are good for in more detail. And I'll just note that they here are showing us the basic shape of the distribution. And you might look at this and say, is it normal? It kind of looks, maybe it's normal, but it's hard to tell whenever you have a small data set like this one, only 25 observations. The other graph, one of the other graphs we talked about in the Unit 1 material is box plots, so let's look at that. You can see here that a simple box plot in Minitab is a vertical box plot. There are other ways to do this. You can do it horizontally, which is a lot of the textbooks use. So we will go to Scale and click this transpose value in category scales. That's going to make it horizontal. Either way you do it is fine, but I believe this is how our textbook does it, so we're going to stick with that convention. And here is the box plot. We've got the median right here in the middle, 3.03. Q1 is given to us down here, 2.25. Q3 is up here, 3.8. The interquartile range is the difference between those from here to here. And then the whiskers are also given to us as well. Sometimes box plots are formed using the 5-number summary. Sometimes they're not. And it looks like in this case they're not necessarily, but we could tell for sure if we were to compare the whiskers to the minimum and maximum values here. So 5.4 and 1.2. So in this case they are. So this is the maximum, this is the minimum. There are a lot of different options you can use to customize your graphs. You can change the colors, the font sizes, and so on and so forth. But let's move on and look at one other thing that we can do. And this is kind of all at once. If we go to Statistics, Basic Statistics, Graphical Summary, and for variables we're going to click Hours, and we're going to say OK. And we get this output, the histogram with a normal plot imposed on that, and we get the box plot. We also get confidence intervals. These are things we'll talk about later in class. And then we also get some numerical summaries, mean, standard deviation, variance, skewness. Some of these we talked about, some of it we haven't. Sample size, 5-number summary, plus a few things that we may or may not talk about later in the class. But the point is that by doing one operation, we can get a very good big picture view of what's going on with our data, both graphically and numerically. So let's now copy the data that we have here. So I'm just going to come over here and copy this all the way down to here, and copy cells. And I'm going to come over here to Excel and paste those. So here they are, and I actually want to change the format here so you can see a little bit easier what's going on. So I'll make the font size 20 point. And so now in Excel we can do a lot of the same things we did in Minitab. And one of the nice things about Excel is you can just type in functions, and functions are always preceded by an equal sign. So if I type equal AVERAGE, average, that's going to give me the mean. And Excel says whenever you call a function, if you have the function spelled correctly, it's now going to tell you what the inputs are. And so this first number 1 thing here is looking for a list. So I can either type it in A2 colon A26. That's one way to do it. Push enter. I get 312. That's not quite what we had in Minitab, but if I make this a little bit bigger, then we see that it was just rounding for us. Let's make these other ones a little bit bigger as well. Another way to get this is to type average. And then just to take the cursor over here and select the data that we want to use, and we get the same thing. So I'm going to write over that one with the median. Just type the number, Control Shift, and we get the median of 3.3. What about the standard deviation? STDEDEV.S is the sample standard deviation. That's the one we want. We'll talk about the population standard deviation a little bit later. Again, A2 colon A26. Be the sample standard deviation. So there are lots of different functions that are built in, but you might be saying, I don't want to type all those functions in all the time. And it turns out that you don't have to. If you go up here to Data and Data Analysis Tool Pack, if you are lucky enough to have this already activated, then you just click on that. If you don't have it in place, come over here to File and then go to Options, and then Add-ins, and then go down here, make sure it says Manage Excel Add-ins, go and click on a Data Analysis Tool Pack and Analysis Tool Pack VBA. Say OK. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. But you might have to restart Excel, but at some point you will have this data analysis show up. If not, again, contact the IRT people or the Labo Tech people. They provide tech support. When we click on Data Analysis, you'll see there's a Descriptive Statistics option. Click OK, and then for the input you're going to select all of this stuff. If you include, like I've done here, the variable name, so it starts at A1, and then there are labels in the first row, that will help me keep track of what's going on. And when I say OK, it looks like I did not select which statistics I want, so I got to select Summary Statistics. And when I say OK, it's going to open up a new sheet. And let me make this big as well so you can see better what's going on. But so we've got the variable, mean, standard error, median, mode, so forth. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Minimum, maximum. So there are some extra things in here that are not in the mini tab and vice versa. But there are lots of options in mini tab as well as Excel that will allow you to do that to match those things up. So we have the count and so forth. So let's come back to the data then. And let's try and make a histogram. So if you go to data, data analysis, again you will see histogram. And when you click OK, again we'll ask for the input range. And let's just select all this data here. So we've got this data, and then we're going to say there are labels. Bin range, we could put that in if we wanted to, or we can just leave it and let Excel make the bin range by itself. And if you click on chart output, I think that ought to do it, what we're looking for. And sure enough, Excel now actually provides a histogram, and it gives us a frequency distribution over here, and then it makes a bar chart for those numbers. So it's not a real histogram because there's big gaps here. It's actually a bar chart. And so my recommendation is, instead of using Excel for histograms and box plots, I mean, don't even forget about box plots unless they've added it recently. My recommendation is to use Minitab for that. So that's the end of this video. We'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions by starting up a discussion thread. Okay, thanks. Goodbye.